You were talking about your fantasy team. You said getting a little old, so you had to get some younger people.
Yeah. I went off on a little tangent on that too,
That's
but
all right.
yeah, I felt betrayed, or I felt like I betrayed the Ravens when I traded Henry, but I had to think GM style instead of fan style. So,
Yeah.
but
I I I don't think I'd ever want to be a GM, in real life
no,
because you end up with so many players that it just, you love having them around, whether it's their production, whether it's their leadership, all of it, whatever. You get to know them as people, it's such a great player, such a great person. And then you get to that point where you go, I can't keep you.
right,
Oh, it's like I'm sorry, I can't keep you. Whether it's they get too expensive
yep.
or somebody else gets too expensive, so you've got to make cuts somewhere else. I mean, I don't think I could do that. I
Yeah,
really don't.
because then you're essentially treating people as commodities, and I feel like that sucks because
Yeah.
and it's not like you think they're commodities, but you have to run a team like a business.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, there's no way. The ones that do it well do it so well, and then the ones that do poorly are looking for a new job really fast. So
Yeah. Well,
there's
I
no way.
re
There's no way.
I really wonder if they will allow Ozzie Newsome to be in the Hall of Fame for a second time. Because if he was not a Hall of Fame player, let's just say he was a good player
Yeah,
and then became the GM that he was, he would eventually get to have that chance, like Ron Wolf and Bill Polian, Eddie DeBartolo,
right.
and get that status as a GM where you could go, you know what? I mean, he built a couple of Super Bowl champions. I mean, look at the other, Baltimore was always competitive, even in the seasons where they might have finished 8-8. I mean, you still remembered those games.
Right.
I mean, if a team walked out with a dominating win, they probably went, "Wow, we got that." It was Baltimore has been good to great this entire time that Ozzie Newsome was the GM. And so that's why I wonder is that if he will get the opportunity to go in now as a contributor.
Is has that happened? I
You
mean,
you you have some people who they had a playing career, but they're into something else. Like, okay, Tom Landry and Don Shula were both players, but they got in because of their coaching. Their playing career was never going to get them in the Hall of Fame.
right.
Um, Jim Finks, I think, is another one. He had played, but more his was more the front office type of thing. I You kind of have George Hallis, but he did so much in the beginning that even while he was a player, it's like you just kind of take his whole
Right.
thing. And now, granted, once he got in the Hall of Fame in the inaugural class in '63, he was almost done coaching anyway. Um, so I can't think of a time right now where somebody, got in as a Hall of Fame player and then got to also get in as a Hall of Fame coach, Hall of Fame, GM, something like that. Ozzy might be the
Right.
first.
Yeah, it's crazy that like he kept just a consistency with building the teams. And it's like certain players leave, and you're just like, oh man. With other teams, like certain players leave, and you're like, man, that's going to be a hit.
Mhm.
But it's like they always just they replace them, like, and it's like they maybe they'll miss a step, but it's never like uh you know they're never picking first the following
Yeah.
year. So it's like, and they're doing well of finding players without having to pick in the first five picks.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
I I mean maybe some of their scout team needs a shout out too, because they're like, hey,
Yeah.
take
Oh,
this
yeah.
guy.
Well, exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing as a GM is I want to say I'm pretty sure you're in control of hiring the scouts.
Yeah,
So, they're the ones bringing you the information and then you're having to try and go, okay, yeah, let's draft that guy. Let's draft that guy. Or yeah, let's sign that guy. Let's sign him. And also too, you've got to have the right coaches with you. Because
Yeah.
a lot of times, how often have we seen somebody's actually been a pretty good GM, but the coaches can't get anything out of the players, and so unfortunately, you clean house, coaches, GM, everybody's gone.
Right. Right.
Because there have been a lot of cases where teams, you're looking at them on paper, in this thing in the summer, and you're going, oh my God, how is anybody going to beat this team? What was it
Yeah.
that one year that the Eagles, I forget when one of the players said, oh, we're basically like a dream team, and they had a miserable season.
I know. I mean, you see that in sports all the time. You think you put all these good players on one team. Like having a lot of good players and having a good team is two different things.
Yeah.
Like to get off football, look at the Phoenix Suns this year. Like they people were like before the season, like, oh my gosh, this team's got to be the team coming out of the West. They got swept in the first round by Oklahoma City, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
because they have two of their best players need the ball in their hand to be good.
hmm
That doesn't work. Durant can play off the ball, but like Bradley Beal and Devin Booker need the ball in their hands. There's only one ball,
Yeah.
so you know that
It's not like,
that might be a case that's on the GM, but
yeah.
putting that team together. But I get what you're
Well,
saying.
Well, but yeah, I mean, you obviously got to have people that can work together because, yeah, if you just put
Right,
a whole bunch of stars together, maybe you've got egos that begin to battle, like talking about basketball. It's like, well, he's getting the ball more than I am, and I feel like
right,
I should be getting it more, or if you've got that one star that just can't stop shooting, even if they're having a miserable night, when they should just be dishing it off to somebody else and watching their assist numbers climb.
right,
And everybody always says football's the ultimate team sport because you have so many pieces that you have to rely on. I mean, okay, yeah, basketball, obviously, if you're playing offense, you're also playing defense.
right,
Your team doesn't come down the court, you score, and then they immediately change out five, and then five more
right,
run onto the court,
right,
and then okay, now we're on defense. Oh wait, we got the ball. Okay, now change. That doesn't happen. Football is the only one that really does. Baseball, the only one that doesn't is occasionally the pitcher doesn't hit, depending on which league you're in. And then you've got
right,
the DH, again, depending on which league you're in. Hockey, if you're playing offense, guess what? You're also playing defense. I mean, you
right.
got guys labeled defensemen, but they can also play offense. And your forwards will have to play defense at some point. So, but football, yeah, you have so many pieces you can have, and obviously we saw this at Marshall. You can have an incredibly talented offense, and your defense is just letting people just score.
Right.
Or the flip side of that, the Ravens with their first Super Bowl, they
That's
happen to get
exactly where my
lucky.
head went.
Yeah, they happen to get lucky enough where their defense could not also just hold teams from scoring, but they could score too because their offense wasn't scoring anything. So, and you can get lucky enough where that works. But again, that's still a whole lot of pieces, working together that, it has to come together somehow. And
Yeah,
yeah,
I
when you,
mean,
when
yeah,
you,
it would say you essentially have two separate teams on the one team. I mean, I
Mhm.
know you have special teams, but some of those players cross over.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, like the defense is one team and the offense is one team. Obviously, they work together for the common goal, but I
yeah.
mean, like I said, one is good and one is bad can determine how your season goes.
Well, and you hear in a lot of stories like I love to go back and watch old highlights, especially when America's Game was starting to do NFL films, starting to do
Yeah,
the let's go back and look at the old Super Bowl highlights and talk to the players and coaches who were there. And when they talk a lot of times about the team leading up to that season, you'll get somebody from the defense that, they talk about, God, the last couple of years, our offense couldn't do anything. We're standing over there on the sidelines going, God, not another three and out, or you've got an offense where you're thinking, damn, our defense just gave up another touchdown.
yeah,
Yeah. And yeah, when you can finally get all those things to come together, that's when you end up with champions. And yeah, you get some GMs where it's just like that guy's good, that one's good, that one's good, that one's let me sign
right.
you all. And then you tell the coach, hey, make this work. And they've got to deal with the players going, this is not gonna work.
Right. And I mean, like, and Harbaugh being there so long now,
hmm
like you hear a lot of times like, oh well, this coach loses the team or whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
whatever he's gotten them to buy in every year, and they went through coordinators on defensive and offensive side,
Hmm.
and they're with varying degrees of success. Um, but it's like somehow somehow it gets put together at least half decently every year, if not better than that. And I'm like, it's just it's odd to me to see. It's I'm happy that the Ravens are a team that stays so consistent versus
Hmm.
like how some teams like they get it right one year and then like a couple of years later they're back to picking first in the draft and you're like, how did it go so wrong so fast? Like
Well,
so,
one of those I'm about to find out in this book with the 85 Bears.
I'm
You
curious
know,
to see what they're going to look like this year. Actually, with
yeah.
they put together some good offensive pieces, not just quarterback.
Well, but this draft was also one of the rare times where the team picking first overall was not the worst team in the league. But, they had that pick because of a previous trade.
True, that's
So,
true. Yeah,
so everybody's always talking about, oh, Caleb Williams going to such a bad team. It's like, hang on a second. The Bears didn't finish 1-16 or 2-15
right.
or something like that. I mean, they had at least, I think, 7 wins. So
Yeah,
he's not going to a total dumpster fire. Might be smoldering a little bit, but but again, like you said, they're trying to put it out with. I mean, they've got some good pieces around him.
they really do. Like that's going to be a good division this year, just in general.
Yeah, and
Um, all four of those teams.
I did the video too, talking about the Bears drafting a quarterback again. Hoping they are the only franchise left that has not had a 4,000-yard passer in a season.
Right. Yeah,
The
I heard
only
that just
team.
recently, and I'm like, that's nuts.
Yeah, and they are one of the oldest teams in the NFL, but they just have never had that quarterback. Jim McMahon could have possibly been that guy, but again, remember they were Walter left, Walter right, Walter up the
Right.
middle, and then occasionally, oh look, Willie Galt's open, I'll throw it to him.
Right.
Um, but also McMahon could never stay healthy, and but that's one that okay, we're talking about GMs. How can multiple GMs never seem to get it right at quarterback? Now we know Baltimore's not exactly had, QBs that set the world on fire either. But,
Right.
you had Flacco who did decently enough. And then that one time in the playoffs when they really needed him, he lit it up,
Yeah.
you know. Um, and then now Lamar Jackson, sorry, wrong side, Lamar Jackson. Um, he at least seems like, okay, now we've got the right guy. But
But
Chicago just like flop after flop after flop
I know.
after flop. It was like, how does this happen when you can say that we're looking for our best quarterback since Sid Luckman? The man retired in
Right.
1950, if I
That's
remember correctly. I mean,
that's I know there's people that have come and gone from this earth
yeah,
since they had a
yeah,
quarterback like that lit the world up,
yeah.
And
And
that
hopefully Caleb Williams can be that for them.
yeah, I like it's gonna be I think they'll be interesting to watch this
Mhm.
year. Um I don't know, man, and don't get me wrong, like I do like some I do find some I won't say I cheer for, but like I find some of the dumpster fire teams like interesting. Like right now, Carolina is interesting to me just because their owner's nuts. Like he just like fires people left and right. Like you're gonna get zero consistency,
Sounds like Dan Snyder.
and then yeah,
Can't wait to talk to Tony about him.
man. I mean, like I feel like the those fans had to be like the Munchkins in Wizard of Oz, like Ding Dong, the witch is dead. Like I mean,
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if they were cheering that when they threw the parade that looked like they just won the Super Bowl when they had the ownership change.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I asked Tony, I said, is it really they? He's like, yeah. He's like, we're really that happy. I'm like, ow.
I mean, I mean, I know it took forever, but man, like
Yeah.
at least he's gone. I feel like that franchise can turn a corner and eventually get back to like something close to where they were.
Now you just have to hope that Josh Harris doesn't get the itch and starts, okay, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired.
Yeah,
It's been 2 years, you're not winning yet. You're gone, you're gone, you're gone.
I know. I hate like the year, 2 year thing. Like it has to be egregious to only give them 2 years,
Yeah,
right? I
yeah.
mean,
I would think there has to be something where you're looking at it going, this is not going anywhere.
right,
We are bad. This is not getting better. I don't see this getting any better. This guy is miserable to deal with. The players hate him, whatever it is. Yeah,
right.
I would think it would have to be kind of a we got to clean house. We got to get it all out of here.
I like well, saying we started watching some more WNBA this year, just like everybody else, and we're watching Caitlin Clark and the Fever and stuff, and we became a fan. And like they start off rough, and like
Mhm.
they looked. I mean, as a person that watched a lot of basketball, they looked bad when they first started. But then I started thinking, I'm like, the Caitlin Clark's in the national championship at the beginning of April. She's drafted in towards the end of April.
Mhm.
They're playing games in the middle of May. So there's like zero off season.
Yeah.
Not to mention they scheduled them 11 games in the first 20 days of the season. They had like zero time to practice. So they're like started off like 0 and whatever. Everybody's like, they need to fire that coach. I'm like, they haven't even had a chance to be a team yet. Like, and
Well,
they've won like 5 out of their last 7 now.
Well,
Like,
again, that's when you have a lot of people jump on the bandwagon and they're not patient.
right,
They don't realize this is a team that has drafted number one the last 2 years
right.
for a reason. They've been
That is
that
exactly what I
bad.
told Ashley.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I mean, Aaliyah Boston was obviously a great pick for them last year, but you
oh,
can't have just her,
right.
and now that she's got, Caitlin Clark out there and then hopefully getting some other pieces. Yeah. And having
They
that
got
time to
pieces.
start to glue together, you know.
The chemistry between Caitlin Clark and Leah Boston's starting to form, and you're like,
Yeah.
you almost got like a John Stockton, Karl Malone thing with those two right now.
I saw something where um what was it? Aaliyah was upset that they couldn't get Caitlin Clark another rebound so that she'd have a triple double
Yeah,
or something like
she had
that.
like 15 and 12 and 9 the other night, and I was like, oh my gosh, she almost pulled off a triple double.
Yeah.
But no, her because that's the thing. She's figured out the speed of the game, and then
Hmm.
they finally got to practice together.
Yeah.
After they had like a 5 day layoff after that initial like 11 games in 20 days, and they practiced. And that first game that they came back out, I'm like, they look like a different team. Like all 5 players are touching the ball when they get down the half court. Like,
Rest can do wonders for you.
yeah,
You know,
it was it
I
was I was like, this is a whole different team.
Mhm. I jumping
But
off on another tangent with that. There was a guy that used to come in the rec center all the time at Marshall, and he okay, he was like me. He was, skinny because he'd been a runner all the time, but now he wanted to be a bodybuilder. So he was having to work hard, try and reverse his metabolism. He's doing all this stuff. He's lifting heavier weights and he's getting bigger. But then at one point he kept talking about how sore he was. And we told him, like, dude, you have got to take some time off. We
yeah,
know that you're trying to get to this goal, but like your body's telling you, give me a break. I need
right.
a break. And he kept saying, no, 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 I can't. I'm making gains. Like, but if you're making gains and you blow your elbow out,
Those
then all
gains are going
those
to go away
gains are
real fast. Yeah,
exactly. And he finally, at one point, took a week off. And when he came back, he said, man, I feel so good. I'm like,
yeah,
and the thing is, it wasn't just me telling him this. So it's not like here's this skinny guy that's not trying to bench press 300 pounds, telling you this. The other ones in there who are also, the big lifters, the guys that can squat 500-600 pounds, they're even telling us like, dude, take some time off. It's like, yeah, we're in here a lot, but you know what? Occasionally there's a week where we say, I'm not coming in.
right. Because you have to
Yeah.
realize there's a science to it. It's not just all effort
Yeah.
and work ethic. That's a lot of it, but
Yeah.
you
And
got to play
that's
into the science.
yeah, and that's the same thing for a team. I mean,
Yeah,
11 games in 20 days is insane.
yeah. Like, and it wasn't like they're all home games. Like
Oh yeah.
they did a West Coast swing with
Hmm.
Seattle and LA and Vegas, and then they're back to Indianapolis, and then they're off to like Connecticut, and I'm like,
Yeah.
man, they're either on a plane or they're on the court.
I
Like,
I've been through that, not as a player, obviously, but working with teams.
yeah,
Sometimes when you see that schedule where you just go, "Oh, this is going to be brutal for the next few weeks." You got 5 games in a weekend, then maybe you have a couple of midweeks, and then you got 5 more games in a weekend, and
right,
with those weekends too, you're on the road. Like you said, you're on the road. You're either in a
right,
bus all day, or you're in a playing. And yeah, I did. You
And
you need that rest. Now, granted, yeah, as we've been talking about, you need that time too to gel as a team. But sometimes you need that rest too.
yeah, and that's the thing. And going back to like the hiring and firing thing, it's like everybody wants this coach fired, Christy Sides, and like one, it's only her. I think it's her second or third season as head coach. I'm
Okay,
like,
yeah,
give them time to figure it out.
yeah.
Like they have the pieces, they just got to put them together and make the puzzle. Like,
You feel like in the past they used to be a little bit more patient.
yeah,
You know, that if
yeah,
it got to year 4 and 5 and things aren't getting better, you start to go, okay, I'm putting you on the hot seat now. Things have got to get better.
right,
But yeah, nowadays, no, everybody wants it now. You know, we've seen when you sign the right free agents, we can get a Super Bowl now. You know, we can get an NBA title now. You know,
right.
no, you know, because even with reading this and seeing the documentary on the '85 Bears, I mean, Ditka got hired in, I think, '81 was his first year, and they were terrible in '81.
Right.
'82, a little bit better. '83 started to come around a little bit more. '84, they look like okay, maybe. Then '85, they're champions. You know,
I know.
If George Hallis and the McCaskey family hadn't given him that time, who knows? They may not have had that '85 Super Bowl.
Oh, if they were in the 2020s, man, Ditka would have never made it to 85.
Yeah, I
Like,
Bill Walsh. I mean, his first year was 70. I don't think he came in as a rookie head coach in '79. He might have with Montana. He might have been there a couple years before. But his first few years,
yeah,
49ers were terrible. And then he finally started to get the players he wanted. Next thing you know, '81, they're Super Bowl champs.
I know. And it's there's a patience that there's it's gone now. Like
Hmm.
it's win now or rebuild.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I mean, that drives me crazy. Like I can't stand constant turnover. That's what I'm saying. I mean, going back to the Ravens, like, oh, that's another benefit to even rooting for this team is like there has been this stability and consistency for so long. Like,
Hmm.
I mean,
Well,
I
and
I, I don't even know. Like, even honestly, just even Ozzie Newsome retiring was like scary. Like, oh my
well,
gosh, this is a change. It
he's still the executive vice president, but
right,
Eric DaCosta, who worked for him for so many years while
right.
he was the GM, is now the GM.
And you're kind of hoping. I'm like, okay, well, that's the best way to keep some consistency. Is like we get Eric DaCosta in there, who's like been under Ozzy, so it's like, okay, natural continuation. You hope, and it
Yeah.
so far it has. It seems like it has been. So you're
Well,
like,
and
okay,
you have teams that you see the consistency, like the Ravens and John Harbaugh coaching there for well, he's going into his 17th season.
yeah, jeez,
You've got Pittsburgh with Mike Tomlin, how long he's been there.
yeah,
Um, the Chiefs and Andy Reid, how long he's been there. I mean, now granted, there towards the end with Belichick and the Patriots, things kind of started to fall apart a little bit, but
right.
you still even had that whole entire segment there where people just thought of him as, oh my God, he's the greatest coach of all time. And it wasn't because, oh, he won 2 Super Bowls in 3 years and that was it. It was this whole length of time.
I mean,
The 49ers trying to hold on with Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, they're trying to get that consistency rolling. And the teams that tend to do the best, as you have said, are the ones that try to stay consistent with it, not so quick with the turnover.
yeah, I mean, the ones that feel like they just keep, unplugging it and plugging it back in, hoping it's going to turn on.
Yeah.
like, do a little work to it first,
Yeah.
and then maybe it will eventually turn on and work right. Like, uh, I mean, God bless the people that are fans of the teams, like Carolina Panthers fans. I don't even know how they have it. Like, geez, like that's got to be even the Jets for a while. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, the Jets may have gotten some stability now. They can get the Jets have a good young team. Like aside from if Aaron Rodgers holds up and actually plays well,
Hmm.
they got all the other pieces.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, guys, if you hold it there, you might have something eventually. But
All right.
but
Well,
it's the Jets, and who knows?
yeah, exactly. I know Mike Greenberg's sitting there going, please, please, please,
Yeah,
um, All right. So before hopefully we don't get cut off for a third time, I'm going to get you to your trivia questions.
Oh, okay, okay.
So, all right. I knowing that you have obviously not been a football fan for your entire life, I did try to make these not too difficult, but then again, this is coming from me, not thinking they're that
Yeah,
difficult,
yes,
but
Scott, you worked with a softball. Let's go ahead and throw me some softballs here.
which granted, those things are not soft. I have been beaned before.
Yeah,
I still have a couple of knots in my shins from when I was catching pitchers and unfortunately did not have gear.
yeah, weird, weird,
Yeah,
weird name, but yeah,
yeah, exactly. Why call them soft? Those
I
things are
don't,
not
I
soft.
don't know.
All right. So, starting you off, who is the only player in NFL history to win Comeback Player of the Year twice?
Chad Pennington.
There you go.
I
There you know. I lobbed that first one in
like
for you.
that. Okay,
So,
there we go.
yep, one in '06 and '08.
Yep.
The only one to do it. Although there are probably not too many players who would like to win it multiple times.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, now this one is true or false. Okay. Rasheen Ali is the first player from Marshall to be drafted by the Ravens. True or false?
Oh man.
Now remember, drafted, not played for,
Right.
drafted.
That's false, right? Is it false? I'm going with false.
It's true.
Is it true? Okay.
It's true. Okay, I looked this up. The only other ones who have played for the Ravens, they ended up there, as rookie free agents or whatever. So kicker J.R. Jenkins,
Okay.
back all the way back in 2002. Then you had Albert McClellan, who's probably the
Yeah.
one that you were probably thinking of. Yeah,
That's who I was thinking of.
he was undrafted. He was there from 2011 to 2018. You had Omar Brown, who was
Yeah.
also there.
I wish
Yeah.
we'd have kept Omar.
He was there around the same time, also won a Super Bowl. And then he didn't end up on the regular roster, but
Right.
Corey Vedvik, the kicker,
Yeah.
he was in camp with the Ravens at some point. So there probably have been maybe some others who at least ended up in camp but didn't end up on the
Right.
roster. I did at least remember Vedvik. But yes, Rasheen Ali, the first player from Marshall to be drafted by the Ravens.
I thought McClellan was the one I thought of.
Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah.
why I figured when you said false, it's like he's thinking McClellan.
Yeah.
Well, and he was there for several years. So, but then actually too, so I did this with Anthony as well with the Packers, but um, the Ravens have also only ever drafted one player who had the last name of Marshall, and it was Iman Marshall in the fourth round of 2019. He was a corner out of USC.
Oh, okay.
Only played 3 games for the team that
I
year.
was going to say, did he see the field?
3 games. That was it. Probably special teams would be my
Yeah.
guess. Okay. Now you like defense, so here we go. Who is the Ravens' all-time leader in sacks?
Oh man.
You
Is
mentioned
it
his name earlier.
Is it Terrell Suggs?
Yes,
Okay.
by a wide margin.
Oh, it's okay. Is it a big?
Yeah.
Okay.
Suggs. Now he had more because he played a few more years after leaving Baltimore. But while
Right.
in Baltimore, he had 132 and a half sacks. Second place, Peter Bolware with 70.
Oh, okay.
And Bolware was on that first Super Bowl team.
Right. Yeah. I was saying, I knew that. Like, man, I didn't. Okay.
Yeah. 62 and a half sack lead.
I
Quick
know
math there.
he was in the backfield a lot.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. All right. Now this one might be a little bit tougher, but okay, there are 4 defenders, 4 defensive players in the Hall of Fame who spent time with the Ravens. Can you name them?
Wait, did you say 4 defensive
Four
players?
defensive players who spent time in Baltimore who are in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Um, Ray Lewis,
Yeah,
Rod Woodson, right?
that's 2.
Oh,
We talked about one earlier.
did we?
Yeah, I remember turning interceptions into punt returns.
Oh, Ed Reed. Shoot. Sorry, I'm going like I was going like my mind went to non-traditional like Ravens.
Well, that'll be the fourth one.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about those first. That's why I came with Rod Woodson. So
The fourth one, we were there for his induction ceremony. And I don't know if this will give you a hint or not, but we were talking about how long Marshall Faulk was taking, and we said, man, this guy still has to go. Like, we need to speed this up, or we're going to be here till 3 in the morning.
Oh man.
It was right at the end of his career. He came out of retirement to spend a year with them.
He came out of retirement?
Yeah.
I'm gonna hit myself, aren't I?
Probably.
Oh. I got nothing, man. I really don't.
Prime time. Prime time.
Oh my gosh. I'll be honest, I completely forgot he played
hmm
for the Ravens.
Yeah, like I said, right there at the
Completely,
end, he wore 37.
completely forgot he played
Yeah.
for Baltimore. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. That's a okay. I'm just happy I got Rob Woodson because I
Yeah.
was thinking him as a Steeler.
Well, I figured you would have gone Ray
Oh.
Lewis and Ed Reed so fast.
Well,
And then
yeah,
you
and I
then
was
you
like,
jumped right out to Rod Woodson. I was like, okay.
my mind immediately went to okay, who are the weird ones? And then almost just skipped over Ed Reed.
Yeah. Well, and then of course you got Ray Lewis's draft partner, Jonathan Ogden up there.
Jonathan
But
Ogden.
and
Yep.
then you had Shannon Sharp. But again,
Yep.
defensive players, Shannon Sharp tight end,
Right,
Jonathan
yeah.
Ogden tackle. So
I remember
okay.
Shannon's. We were there for Shannon's induction speech. And I remember him
Oh my
getting
God.
booed for mentioning Baltimore.
Well, and then obviously too when he mentioned his brother Sterling.
Yeah,
Yeah, Anthony and I had a hard time with that one. I remember when he got done, Anthony and I looked at each other and said, "Man, my allergies really
dude,
kicked
my
up during
allergies
that
were
one."
acting up, and I don't have as big a love for him as you guys do. I
Oh,
was man, that was heavy.
Annette looked at us and goes, "You guys okay?" We're like, "Man, I don't know. It's, woo, man, this pollen just woo."
Like someone must have got a chili dog with a bunch of onions on
All
it. Like,
right, last question. Now, all right, let me pull my notebook up here to make sure I'm actually seeing all of it. I even with the glasses, eyes aren't still the greatest. But okay, so the NFL is changing the kickoff rules this year, so hopefully now we'll get to see more kickoffs again.
yeah.
Right? Not like how it's been over the last several years, where everything just gets bombed out of the end zone. But who is the player for the Ravens? This was in Super Bowl 47, so the one that you and I got to watch together, who set the title game record. Okay, the Super Bowl record for the longest kickoff return, went 108 yards against San Francisco.
Uh, is it weird? I think I remember his first name and not his last name. Jacoby.
Yes,
Uh, what's
Jacoby
his last
Jones.
name?
Jacoby
Jacoby
Jones.
Jones. Okay. Yeah.
Hey, you got the Jacoby part, so that's.
Yeah.
He was kind of a quick flash in the pan for the Ravens.
Yeah.
He was
Yeah.
so
He was.
exciting and then was gone.
Yeah.
And yeah, he also had a 56-yard touchdown catch in that game too. I
He.
mean,
Yeah. He had some.
he lit the 49ers on fire.
He had some highlights, but
Yeah.
like no consistency.
Well, he was the one that
Like,
caught that bomb from Flacco against the
yeah.
Broncos to
Yep.
help get them. He's got some highlights that year that just make you go, "Oh!" And then
Right.
what happened?
Right.
You know. So,
But hey,
hey, you did a good job there.
that was better than I thought I would do.
Yeah, like you said, I think you went for the better batting average there instead of a Justin Tucker field goal percentage.
Yeah. Oh, he'll still be kicking them bombs out of the end zone.
Well, see, now I think they're going to put the ball. It's at either the 30 or the 35 if you do that. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
so there's
Yeah, I hadn't
even
heard about the whole new
yeah.
rule yet.
Well, it's I think I got a few minutes left here. I might be able to try and explain all this. And actually, it's in the magazine, so I mean, maybe go to the page and see if that might be able to help me in case I get stumped on it. But so, I mean, obviously, it's one of the most exciting parts of the game for all
Yep.
of these years, and we haven't seen it really.
Right.
I everybody keeps talking about records that they think will never be broken, like Emmitt Smith, his rushing yards and whatever, Jerry Rice. But I keep thinking, what about even just kick return numbers?
Yeah.
Whether it's most returns in a season, yardage, career returns, career yardage, like you have teams where the leader returned maybe 15 kickoffs all year,
Yeah.
and that might even be on a team that gave up 65 touchdowns. and a whole bunch of field goals, so
Right.
everybody's just bombing it out of the end zone. But so what they're going to do is the kicker is still going to be back where they've always been, but then they're going to put both teams in a line, I think either 5 or 10 yards apart. So now you're going to eliminate that whole just running at each other full speed all this distance. And the return, and it's going to be on the opponent's side. So you got the kicker back here, everybody else is going to be up here, past the 50.
Yeah.
And so, and with the fact that they're going to move the team up even farther if you boot it out of the end zone, or if it's, an obvious touchback, it's now going to really give teams the incentive to not do that and kick it, make it so that it's returnable. But the teams can't clash with each other until the ball's caught or until it hits the ground.
Oh, okay. So eliminating
Yeah.
that car crash aspect of it.
Yeah, yeah. And it's
Okay.
one, especially that full speed one. Yeah,
Right.
where
Yeah.
where it's not just, like the linemen, nailing each other,
Right.
with only being a yard apart. Yeah, you no longer have this one team running down full speed. And so I think it'll be kind of interesting. I really
Yeah.
hope that it brings more returns back.
That sounds like it's got the potential to be cool and be more
Yeah.
exciting with keeping some of the safety
Yeah.
stuff they want to
Yeah.
keep in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Brandon, thank you so much for joining me. I'm sorry that we had to keep resetting this thing a couple of times, but good
Oh,
old
that's fine.
Zoom.
That's fine, man. It was fun. You know, love talking sports with you. I've done it for 2 decades plus now.
See, that's another thing. It just feels so weird that it's been that long.
I know. Well,
It
we were
feels
talking about watching the Super Bowl together, and I'm like, that Super Bowl feels like it was a couple years ago to me. And it's like
2012.
2012. Like that's
So
crazy.
maybe what I think that was the 2012 season. So maybe what, January 2013. But
Yeah,
obviously, still, it's over 10 years ago. Yeah.
right. And it does. I feel it. That's another one. I feel like, oh, we just won a Super Bowl a few years ago. I'm like, well, no, it's been a while now. Like
Ray Lewis is retired and is in the Hall of Fame by now, and Ed
exactly,
Reed too. Yeah.
exactly. So
Although, granted, neither one of those guys had to wait very long, to get their call for the gold jacket. So,
no,
but
no, deservedly so, in my
yeah.
opinion.
All right. Well, Brandon, again, thank you very much for joining me here on the Halls of History. And I will still be trying to come back with more shows about just did you know facts from the NFL draft. Full-time job can kind of unfortunately take you away from getting the chance to really get to do some of that stuff about as often as you'd like to. But I'm
Yeah.
trying to get back into it. So, but again, Brandon, thank
All
you
right.
very much. This was fun.
Thanks, man.